Gonna that's so once again, my name is Katie Hoffman. I'm super excited to be here tonight. We are going to be talking about how to reset your metabolism, but especially right before the holidays. And this is something that I have now been doing for almost 3 years. So this is my third holiday season where I have not gained weight, where I have not just felt like I've overindulged and come January, like I'm starting from scratch again. And so hopefully you're going to walk away from this webinar with a few new tools under your belt. And more than anything, you're just going to be excited that you can be healthy during the holidays. So I am going to share my screen with you. And like I said, we are going to get started. So hopefully you can see my screen here. And oh, let's see. I'm going to start. I'm going to move these little pictures so I can see your faces. For those who have your cameras on, you do not have to have your camera on, but will you let me see? Anne, will you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, awesome. All right, here we go. This is how you are going to reset your metabolism with two simple steps. So, like I said, thank you so much for being here. I know that your time is super valuable. And I just want you to know if you can do this over the holidays, you are going to win. And we have all had those years where we put our health off and just thought, like, I'll start January, I'll start in January. And then next thing we know, we start in January and we're 5 to 10 pounds heavier than we were, and we feel terrible and we're kind of depressed that the holidays are over. And I just want you to think, what if you could actually start today? And what if you could get ahead of the game before January? I want you just to imagine what that would feel like. And it's not going to be anything restrictive. I'm just going to give you a few tools that are going to help your body work for you, not against you. So let's jump right into it. What I want you to do, I can't see all of you, but I can see some of you. So just do this for me, even if I can't see you. I want you to raise your hand right now. Okay, so raise your hand, and I'm going to have you put a hand down. I'm going to go through some just common symptoms that a lot of people have. If you have this symptom or someone you know has this symptom, I want you to put your hand down, and we're going to see how many hands we have at the end of here. So if you or someone you know has psoriasis, eczema, or acne, put your hand down. What about diabetes or pre-diabetes? Okay, put your hand down for me. Um, let's see. What about heart disease? Skin tags or skin pigmentation, mental health. So if you're dealing with some anxiety, some depression, fatigue, fatigue is a big one. I was so tired back in the day. I now have endless energy. It's kind of fun. Arthritis, bloating, inability to lose weight, cravings for sugar and salty food, migraines, high cholesterol. Now I'm just whipping through these. PCOS, loss of muscle, fatty liver, high blood pressure, constant hunger. So you're constantly thinking about food, or maybe you eat a meal and you are ready for another meal right after you eat. Inflammation, obesity, IBS, erectile dysfunction if you are a male, neuropathy, Alzheimer's and dementia, or headaches and brain fog. Okay, now I've done this presentation in real life, so it's really dramatic to see the hands drop. I would assume not a single person has their hand raised right now. And the reason why not a single person has their hand raised is because these symptoms are wreaking havoc on our society. And the issue, the root cause of these issues is something called insulin resistance. And there's a spectrum with insulin resistance. So you might not think that your fatigue is necessarily connected to insulin resistance, but I bet it is. So, and there's early stages, there's more progressed stages, but insulin resistance, I always say, is very sneaky. Okay, it's sneaky because we can have some of these early symptoms for years before major problems come up. But the best news that I hope you take away from today is that if we can get to the root cause of what is causing our cells to become so resistant to insulin, we can stop its progression. And it does not have to be too late. So this is a picture of a couple pictures of me with my sweet grandma Pat. And she was just the best. She loved her See's candy, which she definitely passed on to my mom and to me and now to my children. It's kind of amazing how that happens, right? She loved her coral lipstick. She was an artist. She was beautiful. And she was also diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in her early 40s. And guess what? Her granddaughter, was diagnosed at the age of 39 with prediabetes. And I have so many wonderful memories of my grandma, but mixed in with those memories was this memory. Eating her See's candy, then pricking her finger to be able to see what her blood sugar was at, then going in the bathroom and injecting herself with insulin. So she did this eat, inject, repeat for years. She didn't know that there was really any other way. And she lived a life full of health ailments, major heart surgery. She had a quadruple bypass a week before my eighth birthday. She struggled and she ultimately passed away at the age of 77 due to these issues related to her type 2 diabetes. And she had a pretty poor quality of life. She was happy, she was vibrant, but she was sick. And I believe that if we had known about these tools and these simple steps I'm about to teach you when she was first diagnosed at the age of 40, it would have changed everything for her. And obviously, this information wasn't available. I mean, she was diagnosed before I was even born. It makes me sad, but this is what also motivates me to help other people who it's not too late for. This is a picture of me. And so I want to just take a quick moment and tell you my story that has to do with this insulin resistance. And it is a story of hope. And that is my goal for you, that when you hear this story and you hear a couple other stories, you will start to realize things can change for you. So I found myself, I was 39 years old. I was 100 pounds overweight. I was diagnosed at the age of 23 with insulin resistance and PCOS. I just didn't know what it was. And so I was given a few medications and sent on my way. By the time I was in my early 40s, I was on 9 different medications. And it was not fun to think what's going to happen in 10 years, what's going to happen in 20 years, what's going to happen in 30 years with my health. And so I was introduced to these 2 simple steps that I'm about to teach you, to the tools that I used by my dear friend Brittany. I took a leap of faith. I had tried everything. And I took a leap of faith and I did something different and I addressed my metabolic dysfunction head on. I've been able to lose almost 100 pounds. I no longer have PCOS symptoms. I am off of metformin, which is a medication that I took for 20 years. I'm also off of 8 other medications. I have a normal A1C now, so I'm no longer pre-diabetic. And this is also a major reason why I share, because I am just a regular wife and mom of 3 and hairstylist who was struggling. And there are so many people out there like me, like you, and there's help. The next picture that I have is of my friend Stacy. And Stacy and I actually met on TikTok. I love it because she is a spaz. She is fun. You can tell in her after picture, she's got a lot of energy, but she's a 56-year-old woman who was able to lose 40 pounds post menopause. She has food freedom that she's never had, and she always wants me to tell people like she still eats candy. She just does it in a much smarter way. And so she hasn't had to be super restrictive. She kind of does her own thing. But the best part about Stacy's story is that she is no longer depressed. She is no longer angry. And that is a big deal for her day-to-day life. She has other people that have watched her just from her social media alone and they've seen a change in her attitude, in the way that she talks. And this also is why I get on here and share to help other people have stories. So the question is, what's going on? Like, why is this happening? So, in the most recent study by Tufts University, we found that 93% of Americans are struggling with their metabolic health. So, if you feel like you are the only person struggling, let me tell you, you are not. You are not. You may feel like you and your family are very healthy. But I promise you, like I said, when we listed all those symptoms, you start to think, well, gosh, yeah, my aunt does have high pressure, blood pressure, and oh gosh, my dad, he is dealing with high cholesterol. When you start to pick it apart and see all these symptoms, you will very quickly realize 93% of people are struggling. Um, I want you to think of the last time you went to Walmart or Target or the grocery store, and you can see some of these things that people are dealing with. There's a lot that you can't see, but there are just people struggling left and right. I always think of this. I heard this analogy years ago where somebody said, if you had a classroom of 100 students, third graders, let's say, and 93 of them couldn't read, they couldn't write, they were struggling to pay attention, they didn't really know what was going on. As a parent or as anybody going into that classroom, you would not get upset with the students. You would not say, gosh, you guys, come on, just focus, work harder. You got this. You would say, what's being taught here? What are these kids? What's the curriculum being used? What's going on at this institution? And I think that's really important when so many people are struggling in the US. We need to take a look at why this is happening, but it's a systemic problem. Another big staggering statistic is that 50% of Americans have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. 50%. Also, 74%, wrap your head around that. 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. 74%. 50% of children are overweight or obese. 37% of women are suffering with depression. It's too high. It is too high, that number. And then 20% of women have polycystic ovarian syndrome, so PCOS, which I was diagnosed with at 23. That it's the leading cause of infertility in the US for women. So we have got a major problem. And we want to figure out, why is this happening? So some of you may already know, some of you can probably guess. Will you put in the chat if you know? Tell me if you know why this is happening. Put it in the chat. Let me see what you're thinking here. Because honestly, it's affecting way too many people. I'm going to check the chat here in a second. But let's get to why this is happening so that we can then get to what can we do about it? Because that's the most important, right? What we eat. Huge, huge reason of why this is happening. So, ding, ding, ding. Next slide, our modern diet. So, the issue with our modern diet is that we snack. So, that's a huge thing, right? We become the society who snacks all day long. The snack industry is $1 billion industry. We wake up, we grab a coffee sometimes with sugar and cream. We eat breakfast, we grab a handful of goldfish. We just snack all day long. But the modern diet, fruits are bigger and sweeter than they ever have been. Our food is processed where we have fiber being stripped, vitamins, nutrients taken out of our foods. And yeah, Ann Myers is too sedentary, right? This issue, though, of our modern diet with snacks is a huge problem. And I think it's sneaky. Insulin resistance is sneaky. So is our food processing. So I want to give you a quick little example of what normally happens when a food in nature, a sugar or a carbohydrate in nature, is normally almost always wrapped with fiber. You do not find one without the other. So when you think of this wheat over here, that's not really, when we think of wheat, that's not the wheat that we're eating, right? What happens is the wheat is processed, the bran, the fiber is taken out of that wheat, and we are left with this fluffy, powdery white food that we eat. That fluffy, white, powdery food does not have the fiber, which I'm going to explain in a second what fiber does. The fiber is being stripped out. If you were to take an apple and you eat an apple in nature, tastes great, right? Not crazy sweet, but it has some sweetness to it. But that fiber, that apple pectin, that fiber is helping our bodies with blood glucose control. Like I said, I'm going to get into all that. But when we strip that apple of fiber, we end up with this sugar water, right? Just straight carbs and sugar. Same thing with sugar cane. Sugar cane in nature came wrapped with this fiber. We've pulled that fiber out. We're left with this cane sugar, this table sugar that is wreaking havoc on our bodies and that food makers are sneaking into all types of food. Rice. When you guys think of rice, you think of this. You think of this white fluffy rice, right? Or maybe you think of brown rice. That was, so healthy. But really, rice in nature came wrapped in this bran fiber. And that bran fiber was going to do specific things to help our bodies metabolize that food in a much healthier, easier way. So, what does fiber do for us? Fiber does a couple things. I'm going to go through them very quickly. But fiber helps with satiety. Fiber helps you feel full. Okay. If you think of that apple, when is the last time you sat down and you ate 5 apples in a row? You just ate an apple, set it down, ate another one, set it down, ate another one. It doesn't happen because you get full. But you could drink a cup of apple juice that probably has 4 to 5 apples in it. You could drink it in 30 seconds, and it definitely does not make you feel full. That fiber is what is helping with satiety. The next thing that fiber does is fiber helps balance our cholesterol. So it's really helping with our heart health, which we saw with my grandmother. Her lack of fiber, her type 2 diabetes, her heart problems, the heart disease that she ended up with was terrible. Fiber helps us become sensitive to insulin, and we're going to talk about this hormone insulin in a second in either even greater detail. Fiber helps control blood sugar. Fiber helps with our digestion, our gut microbiome. It feeds the good guys in our gut. It gives them the food to be strengthened and fortified. Fiber helps lower triglycerides, and then it also helps restore leptin. And this part is really, really important, I think. The leptin key here because leptin is the hormone that tells our body that we're full. Fiber helps restore that signal. So our body tells us we're full. You can stop eating now. So we can see why fiber is so important. We can also see why we now feel hungry every couple hours when we're eating foods that don't have fiber. 95% of Americans are not getting enough fiber intake. 95%. There's a direct correlation here why we feel hungry every couple hours. And then we have these ultra processed foods at our fingertips, and it's just a recipe for disaster. That is why all the statistics I showed you earlier, they're starting to make sense now, right? Because of all of the issues with our metabolic health. So this is a chart that kind of shows what happens to our body when we eat something that is high in carbohydrates and sugar. So we have this high glucose spike, okay? And eating a high amount of these digestible carbohydrates leads to this big glucose spike. And when we have a big glucose spike, we are going to have a large insulin spike, the hormone insulin, not the insulin that my grandmother took for her medication. But insulin does a couple things. Insulin's job is to transport that glucose from our blood.
How are both you boys like that?
I'm gonna mute really
No,
quick.
I don't understand.
There we go. Sometimes, we get a rogue unmuter in here. But insulin blocks fat breakdown, insulin blocks fat burning, and insulin stimulates fat storage. So that is the problem when our insulin levels are chronically elevated. I'm going to show you really quickly on a little graph how this also works. But also, what comes up must come down. So when we have a big glucose spike, we're going to have a big dip. And when we go low with our blood sugar, we have that glucose crash. And this triggers more hunger. And we want more carbohydrates and more sugar because we've got this dip in our blood sugar. So it really is just like a vicious cycle. This leads to bad energy. This leads to bad hormones, and this leads to a bad metabolism. The results of this blood sugar roller coaster that we're on all day, these repeated blood sugar spikes can lead to those heart problems, those kidney problems, vision issues, nerve problems, depression, anxiety, irritability, inflammation. This increased sugar consumption can lead to just the body needs more and more insulin to get that sugar from our bloodstream. And we end up hungry, tired, and sick. So I want to show you really quickly what happens to our blood sugar. And you're going to see that we end up with this blood sugar roller coaster, essentially. So when you wake up in the morning and you have breakfast, your blood sugar is going to spike, it's going to drop. But what do? Most of us in between breakfast and lunch are grabbing something to eat. We're grabbing an apple, maybe. Maybe we're grabbing a string cheese. We're grabbing a handful of goldfish. We're grabbing a protein shake. We're grabbing something because we've been really taught that we should be eating all throughout the day. We should graze, right? So we get a snack, our blood sugar drops, we get another snack, it kind of drops. Then we eat lunch, so we get another big spike here and a big drop. And that big drop, all of a sudden, our blood sugar's low and our body's saying, come on, eat something. I need something sugary. I need a little pep in my step. So you head to the vending machine or you drive through Starbucks or you grab an afternoon coffee. You've got a spike, a drop, a spike, and a drop. And then we end up at dinner. We've got another spike, a drop. Most of us are eating after dinner. So we're spiking our blood sugar again. And so what happens? I told you that when glucose is present in our bloodstream, the pancreas does such a good job. And the pancreas says, insulin, go for it. Secrete that insulin. So our insulin stays up all day long. And too much insulin, chronically elevated insulin levels, make it so that we cannot burn fat, makes it so we store fat, and it just wreaks havoc on our body. And these chronically elevated insulin levels are leading to exactly what we started with, this insulin resistance. It's leading to the headaches and the brain fog and the high cholesterol and the inability to lose weight and the IBS. All of these things are rooted in these chronically elevated insulin levels. So now that the doom and gloom is out there and you've heard all the just reasons why, right? It can be boiled down to we are eating too often and we are eating ultra processed foods, right? Now, the two simple steps. This is the best part, to become insulin sensitive, to reset your metabolism, to do this starting today so that you don't have to struggle these holidays. We're going to do two very simple things. First thing is you are going to start every meal with fiber, and you are going to eat your foods in a specific order when possible. I always like to add when possible in there because this is not about restriction. This is not about like white knuckling. This is about trying as hard as you can and just making little tweaks. And so if you can't do it every second of every day, if you're trying, you're going to be able to do it. So first thing we're going to do, like I said, we're going to start with fiber. Every single meal, you're going to look at your plate, you're going to find the fiber. Second thing that you're going to look for is you're going to look for protein and healthy fats. That's it. Third, we are going to save our carbohydrates, our sugars, our starches, anything carby for the end of our meal. Because remember what we talked about, fiber helps you feel full. Fiber helps with gastric, it slows down gastric emptying. It makes it so that anything you eat still gonna hit your bloodstream, just gonna hit it at a much slower rate, okay? That is the name of the game. Now, I'm gonna give you guys a little quiz here, okay? So let's say you go to dinner at a friend's house and she serves you this meal. She's a very health conscious friend, I can tell you by this meal. But I want you to put in the chat what you would eat first. Okay, so we've got some salmon, we've got some rice, and we've got some broccoli. Will you put in the chat what should you eat first if we're trying to reset our metabolism here? Okay. We've got some smarty pants in the classroom. Okay. We are going to eat the fiber first. We're going to eat that broccoli. Try to eat a whole serving of the fiber first. Okay. Now, what comes next, guys? Now we've got our salmon left and we've got our rice left. What are we going to eat next? Someone already said it in the chat, but tell me in the chat, what are we eating after that broccoli? Okay, we're going to eat the salmon, right? We're going to eat that healthy fat. We're going to eat that protein. Please, please, please don't be scared of fats. Don't be scared of healthy fats. Okay. Right. And then somebody said we're going to throw away the rice. But this is the best part, guys. You can eat the rice. You can eat the rice. We're just going to eat it last. Okay. I gave you the answer for that last one, process of elimination. But by eating those carbs last, by eating that rice last and having that fiber and those healthy fats and that protein, first of all, you're not going to be able to eat as much rice as if you started with the rice. Second of all, that fiber, those healthy fats, those proteins, they're really going to slow down digestion so we don't have as big of a blood sugar spike, not as much insulin has to come in. The second thing we're going to do is we are going to eat less frequently. So notice I have not said that you're going to eat less. You're just going to eat less frequently because when we are starting out and when we are thinking of the holidays, once again, we don't want you to go to this mindset of restriction. I can't, I can't, I can't. We are just going to have you start thinking, maybe if I cut out my snacks and I ate 3 square meals a day, my blood sugar wouldn't be as crazy throughout the day. Maybe if I close my kitchen after dinner, instead of eating up until 10, 11 o'clock at night and then waking up and eating at 6 or 7 a.m., maybe if I close my kitchen after dinner, my body is going to start to repair itself on a cellular level. So, eat a little bit less frequently. For most people, this intermittent fasting is going to look like just closing your kitchen after dinner, like I said. This is a picture I have. This is how I eat most days, okay? Time-based eating really keeps you insulin sensitive. Most days I am skipping breakfast. And when I skip breakfast, I'm in fat burning mode. I eat a big, healthy lunch. I then just don't eat in between lunch and dinner because my lunch has filled me up. I've got fiber, I've got healthy fats, I've got good carbohydrates. I eat dinner and then I close my kitchen. So this is what my blood sugar looks like all day, as opposed to that big up and down, right? Now, some of you, if you've tried fasting, will you tell me in the comments if you've tried intermittent fasting? Because for some people, I hear a lot, well, I've tried it, but it's too hard. I get hungry. I think about food all the time. Or they say, oh, no, 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 no. When I wake up in the morning, like I have to eat immediately, or I have to eat before I work out. So, this is what I have found, and this is a tool, and I'm going to get into kind of the science behind these tools in just a quick second, but this is a tool that has really helped me be able to do a little bit of intermittent fasting and to up my fiber intake. So I use a system called the Unicity Feel Great system. It's a 2-part system. It's 3 drinks, as you can see here. I just drink these drinks and I do those 2 insulin lowering strategies that we talked about. Fiber first, eating in a specific order, and doing a little bit of fasting. Okay. Yeah. Allie says that was me. I had to eat before I work out. She's changed her ways though, guys. But so I wake up in the morning and I sip on this Unimate. It's a yerba mate concentrate. It does a couple things. I'm going to explain a little bit more about GLP-1 in a second. But it basically, bottom line, it helps me forget about food. It helps my liver function more properly. It helps my brain just really be very clear, focused energy. So I have one of those in the morning. Then I break my fast. I have another one of that yerba mate concentrate. I do that in the afternoon in between lunch and dinner. And then before dinner, I have a fiber supplement. This fiber supplement is doing all of those things we talked about. It's helping you feel full. It's helping with your heart health, lowering triglycerides, feeding your gut microbiome. And then I'm going to talk about the glucose control that it gives you in just a second. These tools are easy, they're simple, and they're just drinks that you drink throughout the day. So, this was a study really quickly that was done on that fiber supplement. So, that fiber supplement is called Balance. It comes in a month's supply. You're going to get enough for a 30-day supply. So, you're going to take that Balance right before dinner. This study was done on a group of participants who actually had a waffle breakfast. They had waffles, they had syrup, and they had orange juice. This is what happened. The people who were given the Balance had a 34 to 37% reduction in their post-meal glucose spike. Now that sounds a little sciencey, but this is what it means. 34%, 37% lower on that blood sugar roller coaster. So blood sugar doesn't go up as high. What happens? Not as much insulin has to come in to transport that glucose. Insulin comes down, we get back into fat burning mode faster. And we want to be in fat burning mode. So that's the Balance. This is the Unimate, and there's so many benefits to the Unimate. It's really high in chlorogenic acid, which is an insulin sensitizer. But one of the things that the Unimate does is it increases your body's own production of the GLP-1 hormone. So GLP-1 is a peptide hormone. It's produced in our intestines in response to the food that we intake, right? It helps regulate blood sugar levels, it helps slow digestion, it helps you feel fuller longer. It really turns off food noise. We hear a lot about GLP-1s, agonists, right? These injectable weight loss injections. And these drugs are synthetic versions of GLP-1. It mimics the natural function of GLP-1 in the body. Okay. But in a recent study, okay, GLP-1 production was measured in subjects who were given Unimate and subjects who were just given water when they were fasting. And they found that the subjects who were given Unimate had a 60 to 70% increase in GLP-1 production, which means so much easier to fast when something that you're sipping on is helping you forget about food. That is why it is amazing. Okay. So once you become insulin sensitive, these are some of the things that you can expect to happen. You can expect to have your cravings start to decrease. This is something that happened to me pretty instantaneously. I just was like, I'm not really thinking about food all the time. Your food preferences are going to change. You're going to be comforted while fasting, like I talked about. You're going to have this steady, focused energy. I am a hairstylist. I work full time. I used to be exhausted. I now have a pep in my step that I have never had before. And I say it all the time. I'm older than I ever have been. And I have so much energy. It's going to boost your mood. Your mind is going to become clear. You're going to sleep better. You're going to have improved digestion. You're going to start losing inches. If you have weight to lose, you will start to lose weight. Your cholesterol and blood sugars will be balanced. Your blood pressure is going to regulate, and your skin will clear up. But we've got to get to that root cause. So this is a picture of a bunch of people who have had really, really good results using these simple steps that I just taught you and the tools that I taught you. I see my friend Nelda right here who was able to reverse her type 2 diabetes. There's just so many people on here that I love and that I get to walk side by side with, living a healthier life. So before we get into some questions, I want to open up the end for you guys to ask me some questions. I want to show you how you're going to be able to do this through the holidays and substitute Christmas dinner with this, substitute a work Christmas party that you have to go to, substitute anywhere during the holidays that you are going to be fed a big plate of food. Okay, so Thanksgiving dinner, this is a plate. This is pretty similar to my Thanksgiving plate. I mean, there might be a few things that have been moved around on this plate, but this is pretty close to what I eat. So I want to give you a perfect example of what you can do on Thanksgiving Day specifically. Okay, so Thanksgiving Day, I'm going to wake up And most likely, I am going to skip breakfast. I'm going to sip on my Unimate. It's going to help me forget about food. It's going to help me, it's going to be energy. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to have lunch. And what I'm going to do with my lunch is I'm going to have my fiber first. I'm going to look at my plate. I'm going to find the fiber. I'm going to eat my healthy fats and proteins. I'm going to eat any carbs at the end of my meal. And that's going to be my lunch. Then I'm not going to snack. And I'm going to head over to my mom's house and we're going to have this amazing Thanksgiving dinner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the food that I want to eat on my plate. I'm not going to restrict. I'm not going to have my mom's sweet potato casserole that she puts. Remember my grandma, there's a theme here. She puts See's candy on the top of her sweet potato casserole, guys. She does Scotch mallows. So it's the caramel wrapped in marshmallow, and it is so good. And I'm going to put that on my plate. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a balance. I'm going to take my fiber supplement, and I know that it's going to help me with this meal. It's going to help me feel so I don't overeat. It's going to help my blood glucose control. It's going to help so many things. But so then, once again, I'm going to look at this plate and I'm going to go, okay, what can I eat first? I'm going to eat the salad first. I'm going to eat my green beans first. I'm going to then probably move on to the turkey. I'm going to look for those healthy fats and proteins. And then I'm going to save my potatoes, my sweet potatoes, my stuffing, my dinner roll. I'm going to eat those at the end of my meal. And because, like I said in the beginning, I've done this now, this is my third year going into eating this way. I know I'm not going to overeat because those first things are going to fill me up. I'm still going to get to have the mashed potatoes and the bite of the stuffing, but I probably won't even end up eating a full serving. And this is how you do this throughout the holidays. That is how you do it. Now, people ask me all the time as well, okay, but what about dessert? Right? Because Thanksgiving, Christmas, these parties, you're probably going to have a dessert sometimes. And so what I do for those nights specifically is I bring an extra balance packet. Because most of the time after eating this big meal, I need a little bit of a break. So we maybe wait an hour or two and then you have pie or cake or whatever your family does for your, Thanksgiving traditions. We do pie and I'm going to take another balance because I know this. I know that if I take that balance, that glucose response and therefore my insulin response to that pie is going to be 34 to 37% lower. I know that most likely I'm going to have one piece of pie and it's going to be plenty and I'm going to feel good and I'm going to feel satisfied. So it's simple. You can do this. I promise you can do this. So I want to open up for question and answers here. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I would love to answer any specific questions. Um, I also, while you're doing that, while we're waiting for people to ask anything on here, I want to tell you, if you want to use the tools, if you want to use the Feel Great system, whoever invited you to this call, please just reach out to them. They will give you a discount code. So there's a $70 discount code that you can get from that person every single time you order. You will get that discount code. If I invited you, message me if you stumbled upon this on YouTube or somewhere like that. There will be a description of how to get the product at a discounted link. But these tools have absolutely given me my life back. Like I said, I know that I would have ended up just like my grandma. And I'm so excited that my grandkids are going to know nothing about insulin from their grandma. They're going to know about See's candy. I'm going to teach them about that and how to eat that in a good way. But I just want you to know that if you start now, you're going to win. You're going to win the holidays. You really are. So if there aren't any questions, we're going to jump off here, but share this with anyone that you know, because at the end of the day, we need more people to be healthy. We need more people to win. And it doesn't have to be hard. I am living proof being able to lose weight, being able to have this beautiful blood work and now be in maintenance for over a year. It works. It works. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. And like I said, please reach out, whoever invited you, or reach out to me. I would love to answer any questions for you. and I will talk to you guys later.